G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you're having a fantastic day, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user Venus Divine, titled, I don't think I will ever forgive my sister. Last year in October, I, 22 female, was working at a nursing home in the kitchen. Both siblings of mine, male 29, female 31, worked there. My brother in the kitchen, my sister a nurse. I loved the work. I loved the residents. I had a bit of unease working with my older sister though. We didn't see eye to eye is an understatement. In her words, I'm everything wrong with my parents' life. I'm a horrible person. My mother should have let our abusive stepdad beat me straight so that I would behave better. She's told them to kick me out repeatedly, calling me a freeloader, a drug addict for smoking weed, a brat, and a leech. Never mind she's a drunk and has been since she could start drinking, even drinking and driving constantly. It was 2 weeks before Christmas, and I started having sudden, extreme swelling in my abdomen with pain so bad that it made me cry. I was supposed to see the doctor that day, but had to work even though I had requested the day off. I was sent home in tears with my stomach making me look heavily pregnant and the pain so bad that no one could touch me. My first visit to the ER was a bust. I was given morphine and told that it was my PCOS and then sent home with heavy painkillers. My brother tagged along for the trip, saying he was under the impression because of my sister that I was being dramatic and had bad cramps, even going as far as to tell my parents to just leave me there and come back when they released me so he could get his shopping done. This didn't go over well with me, obviously. Cue me going back to work, and the same happened. The swelling, the pain, the tears. I could barely walk. It was a pained waddle at best. But I was told by my lovely sister to just suck it up and come into work, even telling me that if I missed work again that I would be fired. 2 days in a row I was sent home, and then told to resign until my medical issues were resolved. Even the nursing staff was worried. One of the ladies telling me that I should be in the hospital and not work, as I looked 9 months pregnant with the swelling. Another ER visit was the same result, with no improvement. After I quit, my sister descended like a vulture. She started doubling down on telling my parents to kick me out, telling everyone I'm just too lazy to work now, even going as far as to tell her own parents that I don't need a doctor, I need a psychiatrist, because I'm crazy and faking everything. She told me, on my birthday, 5 drinks in and right in front of my parents as I was talking about bills, that I wouldn't actually have to worry about the bills if I actually kept a job. I never talk back. I'm the quiet one. I don't fight back, but I was done. I turned and pointed at her and said, "Don't you start. Don't you even effing start with me. I am tired. I am sick. Just effing stop." Her eyes got as wide as silver dollars. My birthday is just before Christmas, and I haven't talked to her since. On Christmas Day, I remember passing everyone their gifts with a smile. When I got to her, I tossed it at her really hard and just said, "You." I didn't even thank her for anything. Now she does nothing but try to get me to talk, compliments on the gift I gave, asking how I'm feeling, trying to ask our mum how I am, or asking my brother to see if I'll tell him anything. I have a stomach biopsy and endoscopy scheduled, then multiple OBGYN visits, and even more tests after that. I'm refusing to tell her about any of it. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a sister. Oof, yep, all I can say is that she sounds like an absolute pain in the side. I think you're absolutely right for lashing out at her like you did. She sounds evil. It doesn't seem as though she cares about you, and her attempts after the fact are just even more toxic. It sucks that you're not in a position where you can go fully no contact with her, although your current efforts at no contact are very commendable, so I think you're doing a very good job, OP. In the comments, Leo Phoenix 93 says, "OP, your sister sounds like an alcoholic and a bear. Your family doesn't sound that much better since they seem to follow her. Family can suck." OP replies, "She and my brother are closer than either of them are to me. She's definitely the favorite. Our mother fully admitted it, but even they are getting tired of her acting like this." Well, it's time to prioritize you and your mental health. Get to a place where you can cut out anyone not bringing any positive to your life. Scary Alternative 11 says, "I really hope you get better soon, and I am so sorry you have such a vile and disgusting person as a sister. I'm glad that you stood up for yourself. OP replies, "Thank you. I truly appreciate it. I honestly shocked myself by telling her off, but I am a bit proud of myself for it. Do you think your sister could have been doing something to you at work to cause your symptoms and force you to quit? It seems like she was just waiting for that to happen, you quitting, to attack you. I hope you find out what is wrong and get well soon and get away from your family." OP replies, "I severely doubt it. I don't think she hates me enough to hurt me. And unless she slipped something into my morning coffee or lunch, I don't think she'd have an opportunity to do anything. Thank you for the well wishes. My dad has a condition called diverticulitis. It sounds similar to what you're describing, except for the swelling abdomen. It's triggered by certain foods that he's recently eaten. Maybe keep a food, drink, symptoms log until your appointment, along with any medications that you try to treat it with. That might help when you go to the doctor. It could help expose any patterns to your symptoms that might help the docs come to a diagnosis." And OP replies, "That's what my doctors thought as well. As of right now, it's one of many tests they've done recently. Fingers crossed, my results should be soon." And now, on to the update. After 5 long months, I have a status update. About 5 or 6 months ago, I lost my job and relationship with my sister due to a mystery illness that she swore I was faking. Newsflash, I wasn't. After more tests than I can count, I have an answer. Well, sort of. As it turns out, I have a very large cyst on my ovaries that is bleeding, causing even more irritation and pain in the long run. Endo is a strong contender for a diagnosis as well. So no, dear sister, I don't have the magic power to inflate my stomach, cry on command, and I don't make myself puke for attention. I'm currently awaiting a doctor's visit, going over treatment, and even possibly surgery. Unfortunately, my mother has told my sister everything, which she accomplished by taking my mum out on mummy-daughter days and spoiling her with more gifts than you can imagine. Unsurprisingly, I was never included. She still makes snide comments and even took her fork while we were at dinner one night, poked my stomach repeatedly, and said for everyone and God to hear, "Wow, I never thought I'd see the day your stomach doesn't look like a balloon. What changed? You don't look as fat and swollen." The look I gave her could melt a hole through a diamond. So I told her, "It's because I'm not in pain right now, you asshole." My mum is trying to get me to be nice to her, telling me, "That's just how she is. She doesn't mean anything bad. She's your sister, and I didn't raise you two to not get along." I told her if my sister didn't mean what she said, then she should apologize for making those comments. As of right now, she's still on my shit list. Mum is definitely climbing the list, but I have good news. I got a new job. It's well paid and low impact, plus I get 3 breaks a day and weekends off. I even have paid holidays off. I'm loving it, and although it's hard work, I'm excited to finally pick up the pieces of my life. My brother even told me that I was the hardest worker they had at my old job, and unfortunately, the replacement isn't even doing half of what I could do in a day. And while I miss my residents, and I still know their special orders by heart, I have never felt such relief in knowing that who I work with now don't even know my family. I can chat with them without my sister breathing down my neck or my brother shushing me for being friendly. I am not 100% yet, and I have a long road ahead, but I'm doing it with my head held high and the best stride that I can muster. Edit, holy cow, I never expected for this to get the traction that it did. I'm in tears, and I can't thank you guys enough for the kind words and call-outs in the comments. It makes me feel less alone, and I couldn't even begin on how much it means to me that people actually care. A little clarification though on a few points. My mother does believe that I'm sick. She even goes to the doctor with me and comforts me when I'm doing really bad. She grew up in an abusive household and really doesn't have a close relationship with her family, so she raised us to get along so that we could have the relationship that she never could. It's no excuse for her response, but it does mean I understand where she's coming from. Again, not an excuse for the bad response, but she does care, and she's been helping me out a lot. My sister can be a good person when she wants to be. When she wants to be is the catch. I still love her. She raised me when my parents had to work double shifts and long days, and is the reason that I still eat ramen when I'm sad, lol. She's always been mean, but now she seems to be getting meaner, and she's going through bad things too, but that's no excuse to be horrible. I just hope that whatever is biting her butt lets go soon. My brother and I have always been close, and he asks how I feel whenever I see him. When I lost my job, he bought my pets food. When I needed a ride into town and had no gas money, he let me crash at his place for the night and took me. Sure, we fight too, but we are on better terms. As I said, there is no excuse for being dismissive or downright nasty. I'm still going no contact and low contact when I move, as I believe it's the best choice for my mental well-being. I'm putting me first. Edit 2. Thank you guys for every message. I never expected this level of support from people. I've read all of them and cried a bit. And thank you to the people that are also telling me not to take this lying down. As of right now, I've already had a talk with my mum, and she agreed that my sister was out of line. She did repeat, "That's just how my sister is," but she did say that it was about time that I said something to her about it, and she wasn't going to stop me. It's between me and my sister now. She's visiting in a few days, so we'll see how it goes. Although until she says something, I will be silent. As for my mum, she is no longer going into my appointments with me. She agreed to sit in the waiting room for me unless I desperately needed her help. In the comments, Tom AF asks, "Why bother with your sister? What's the point of putting yourself through her nastiness?" And OP replies, "I currently live with my parents, and since she's here often, I can't really avoid her. Sometimes she just looks in my room at me and then leaves. I'm not talking to her, and I'm trying to avoid her when I can." Can we start to finally truly normalize that the person wronged does not have to be the bigger person? I'm so sick of hearing how OP's mum responded. Yeah, she's awful, but that's just how she is. So you should be nicer to make things easier for everyone. Like, what the actual hell? No. Just no. She just knows sister is more difficult to deal with, so she's trying to get you to smooth things over. You need to tell your mum that you don't need to be nice to people who treat you poorly. If she wants things to be better, then she needs to hold her accountable for her horrible behavior. And quit using the excuse that that's just how your sister is. Until then, and sister apologizes, you don't have anything further to say. I'm glad you're doing better and have found happiness in your new job. OP replies, "Thank you. It's a good job and I'm learning new skills along the way. And yes, I definitely need to put my foot down on this next time it's brought up. I feel like I'm still new to actually standing up for myself, so it's hard not to just bow my head and accept it. Your mum didn't raise y'all to not get along? Yet here is your sister doing her best to make sure that you two don't get along. Something's not adding up. I think your mum's got her maths wrong. Anyways, congrats on the new job, OP. Wishing you the best." OP says, "Thanks. I love it so far, and they have been very understanding about my condition. I see my primary very soon, and my mother has always done this. She had my sister and my brother a decade before having me, and she even admitted that my sister is her favorite to our faces because my sister is a nurse. Your mom is just as shitty as your sister, unfortunately. She has, and still is, let your sister abuse you." OP replies, "Sadly, nothing new." Your sister's a nurse, and yet she's treating you like that? I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. I'm hoping you'd be able to move out soon. OP says, "I'm working on it. And yep, a nurse for 9 years, a drunk for 10, and an arse for the rest of the time." Our next post is by user Get This Arse, titled, "I hate working with my intellectually disabled co-worker. I am a baker at a busy place, and one of my co-workers is intellectually disabled. This girl cannot keep up with anything. I have had to start batches over because she doesn't do things when they're supposed to get done. I ask her to do something that should take a maximum, and 30 minutes later it's not done, and too late to do it now because the pastries are too cold. She seems to just meander from task to task, doing jack all, when there are a million things to get done that are a part of her job. I am constantly picking up slack when she is working with me, essentially doing the job of 1.5 people. Because of this, there have been numerous instances where a batch has had to get thrown out because it was in the proofer too long because I was busy doing her job. She's just so slow. Yesterday, someone ordered donut holes, but I hadn't done them yet, so I quickly threw them in the fryer, glazed them, and asked her to finish them up while I finished the rest of the customer's order. When I looked at her, she was still bagging the donut holes, putting them in the bag one at a time. I am at my wit's end. Just now I had to throw out a bunch of donuts because she didn't toss them in cinnamon and sugar mix while they were warm, a very quick and easy task. and when I asked her to toss the new batch, I watched her struggle to put on the plastic gloves, take a few seconds to stare at the plastic glove that she dropped on the floor, watched her slowly walk the glove over to the trash can, miss the trash can, stare at the glove for a couple of seconds again, finally pick it up and put it in the trash, slowly walk over to the donuts, pick 2 up and rub them together, and then drop them in the cinnamon and sugar mix one at a time. It has gotten to the point where as soon as I open the door to let her into the shop, I get mad as soon as I see her face. I feel like a horrible person, but she's driving me nuts, so I kind of don't care if it makes me ableist at this point. I don't want her to get fired because that may be discrimination, but she can't handle the tasks at this place. I've given her pointers multiple times on how to be more efficient, but to no prevail. In the comments, Tronic50 says, "You need to ask your boss to work a shift or 2 with the 2 of you so they can see what is going on and make an appropriate decision on her employment." OP replies, "I think the owners are aware that it's an issue already. One time, one of them came in and saw a bunch of dishes in the sink, dirty floors, and dishes still stacked on the rack, and they asked me, 'Was blank here this morning?' And when I said yes, they asked me, 'What did she do all morning? Just sit and watch you bake?' And I kinda just shrugged." Edit, I feel like I should specify this, as of maybe an hour ago, I was under the impression that this was likely the only job this disabled girl was able to land. I was reluctant to tell the owners about her poor performance because I didn't want her to get fired. While she does her job poorly, she is very sweet, and now that she's been there for a while, myself and the other co-workers have grown quite attached to her. Back then, I covered for her because I was still holding out hope that she would get the hang of it. Now I know that they are likely getting her wages federally subsidized, and she is not in danger of ending up on the street if I'm honest about her performance. I will take this issue up with the owners though. The people in my comments section telling me that I need to use my words next time like an adult, or let her fail, need to develop some empathy. Jesus Christ, I hope none of y'all have kids with disabilities. Single Vacation 427 says, "You shouldn't have shrugged. You need to communicate and explain that she did not do anything and she actually made your job more difficult. If they want to keep her employed, they can have her do something else that she can actually accomplish and doesn't interfere with your job. You are not getting paid to train her. Don't you realize that it's very unsanitary to have someone who struggles to put gloves on or who cannot clean? You are making food in a place with dirty floors. Don't you have a health code?" Exactly. I have had the same issue, just with a trainee. She's not intellectually disabled or anything, but just super slow, and manages to do very little over time because she just stands around and chit-chats and overthinks every task instead of just doing it. I told her to hurry up lots of times, but to no avail. Sometimes she will try to offload tasks that she could do onto me, like taking out the trash or wiping the floors. I rarely see her take out the trash or wipe the floors herself. Usually it's me or the other co-workers doing it, because she just doesn't seem to realize when to get things done. Boss has given her several warnings that if she wants to become employed there full-time after her trainee period is over, she needs to become significantly more efficient. I'm not sure she will, and low-key wishes she doesn't become a full-time worker. I Love Wildwood says, "Former job coach for people with disabilities here. There's government-funded programs that help people with disabilities maintain employment, and they can have job coaches come in to work with someone on increasing pace, building a routine, and other things like that. I recommend talking to your manager about your concerns and see if they can help her connect with your state's vocational rehabilitation program." Ill the Dinosaur asks, "Does she officially have a disability?" OP replies, "The owners gave me a heads up that she has this disability, so I assume it's an official diagnosis." Have you considered letting her fail? Stop doing the work of her as well. Your employer put this on you, it's not your fault. It's their problem they hired this person, not yours. OP replies, "I don't want her to get fired because she's really nice and is otherwise a good co-worker. I just keep holding out hope that she gets things figured out. She's been here since February." And now, onto the update. A little while back, I made a post about how I hated working with my intellectually disabled co-worker. The gist of it is that whenever she worked with me, I would end up doing a lot more work than normal just to keep the bakery going, and I would end up frustrated and annoyed. What I left out was the fact that this coworker is incredibly kind and good-natured, and while she doesn't do her job well, she is a great person that myself and my other coworkers like having around. We have grown incredibly fond of her, so I don't want to have her fired, as frustrating as she is. At the time of making the original post, I had very little knowledge about disability services and what that entails. A plethora of individuals with disability knowledge came out of the woodwork and informed me of a few things. 1. My boss is likely getting a tax break for having her work here and is getting a portion of her income federally subsidized. 2. She should have access to vocational programs to help her develop job skills. And 3. Based on my description of her working, my boss has totally mismanaged her. I was under the impression that if I spoke up about how poorly she was doing at work, this sweet disabled girl would lose her source of income and end up homeless, hence why I've been spending the last 5 months or so burning myself out and getting frustrated to pick up her slack instead of telling my boss about her performance. For some reason, a lot of people couldn't seem to grasp this, and were incredibly condescending and unhelpful by saying things like "just let her fail" or "communicate like an adult." Aside from those comments, there were a lot of helpful ones that assured me that I will be able to talk to my boss about this and probably get her into a better position in the bakery. So I did. Today was her first shift back since I talked to my boss about this matter. She came in later than usual, did the dishes, swept and mopped the floors, chatted with us a bit until the afternoon rush happened, grabbed a donut, and left. That was it. No food had to get thrown out, there was nothing put out late, everything went smoothly, and she is still making money and socializing with us. Thank you all for your support and info. In the comments, NextEnd4696 says, "This is a nice update. I didn't post, but I was shocked when I first found out about the supported wage in my country, and I felt like it unfairly takes advantage of vulnerable people who complete work that quite frankly no one else wants to complete. Often it's repetitive and mind-numbingly boring, and they get paid an absolute pittance. It's sad." The absolute pittance part is garbage, but what is repetitive and mind-numbingly boring to you may be the limit of what some people can reasonably achieve. Also, my daughter is autistic. She enjoys those tasks. For her, knowing what to expect is soothing. Our next post is by user NoDirt6358, titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my wife to stop being a pushover, or I would take away her spending privileges?" My wife, 25 female, of 5 years, has a sister, 20 female. She's somewhat disabled, and while this may sound contradictory, she has a condition which makes working difficult, but not entirely impossible unless she is under stress. Neurological condition, loses muscle control, makes her hit and throw stuff/fall over. I have no problem with her sister. She is sweet and nice to have around. My wife loves her more than anything. She basically raised her and stepped in when her parents wouldn't or couldn't. This has led to a relationship closer to mother-daughter. My wife would constantly be paying for stuff for her sister, and this made sense to me when she was a minor and was doing much worse health-wise. Recently though, this has been increasingly getting under my skin. I am the sole provider for my household right now since my wife was pregnant and only gave birth recently. We'd spend a lot to buy her gifts for holidays, which she would never return the favor, even with something cheap with thought or no thought put into them. We'd always take her out to events or dinner and pay for her every time. She would never even pick up the bill for herself. Again, this wasn't entirely an issue until she became an adult, and now I'm fed up with it. She expects my sister to do things like pay for her to go to the doctor, or invites us out to lunch and then expects us to pay. She doesn't even schedule her own appointments. My wife takes her whenever she asks, even if she has the ability to do it herself, and we live 45 minutes away. She always talks about how she's freelancing and is making money, but then somehow has no money whenever she wants or needs anything. I did not have an issue with this either, really. I thought my wife was being a pushover, but it's ultimately her money. That is, until recently. Now she's spending my money on her, and it's really getting me angry. I want to spend my money on my daughter, but we're spending money on this financially irresponsible leech. I explained this to my wife in a much nicer way, but we ended up in a fight where I called her sister some pretty messed up things. I ended the conversation by telling her that I would take away her access to our joint bank account until she contributes again if she doesn't tell her sister to grow up, and that she is not her mother and she is no longer a child. She cannot be dependent on people forever. I think it's an important lesson for her to learn. If she doesn't learn it, she can get back to work and continue supporting her until she's 40 with her own money, not mine. She honestly thinks that this is an end-of-the-world situation. I think it's quite clear that this is for the better. I think she's scared of hurting her sister, but at this point, she's crippling her by allowing her to do nothing. Edit: I should have worded it better in my post. I just meant having the debit card and using our money on her sister, not taking away all her access to money, but setting a limit or giving her cash so she can't just get suckered into paying for stuff. A lot of the criticism still stands despite this, but I want to clarify that I'm not taking away her access to all the money entirely. I also understand the comments about my wife being a homemaker means that she is putting in equal work, so my money is her money. But we're on a single income and we can barely afford our family's needs. I can't give her half my salary so she can spend half of that on her sister. A majority of it goes to keeping us paycheck to paycheck right now. I guess my opinion on the situation is that regardless of how OP is trying to spin this story, it does seem as though he is being financially abusive in the situation. If OP wanted his wife to slowly win this sister off, this should have been a process that was initiated months or years ago in order to gain favor with her. But as soon as she's pregnant, out of job, he just dumps this on her? That's not fair. That is bulldozing. That is steamrolling. That's really rude. And I'm gonna have to say you're the asshole for that one, OP. In the comments, JRM1102 says, "Everyone sucks here. Oh dear, her spending privileges? I get not wanting to spend all that money on someone who seems to be almost taking advantage, but this is not how you frame this situation." Edit: OP is 24. Stop with all the comments asking. Everyone sucks here because spending should be jointly decided upon. But man, as the sole earner myself, you have an extremely concerning take on it. Cutting her off after one conversation sounds controlling to me. The relationship between wife and sister has followed the same pattern for 20 years, and you think she's going to reverse course after one talk? I understand that you have a child now, but did you have conversations with your wife about your feelings leading up to the birth of your daughter? It sounds like a switch flipped and you suddenly felt no more handouts and then got angry when your wife didn't instantly feel the same way. I would apologize and try this conversation again, adding that your daughter and any future children need to be you and your wife's priority. Instead of spending money on sister, you should be setting up a college fund. With your wife, I would start to make a list of all the ways that she supports her sister, then start figuring out how to outsource it. Since she is disabled, there is likely social security money that she can apply for, and there may be programs in the community that can help her get to appointments. Set goals for getting sister independent and work towards it. You're the asshole for exploding in her face when you suddenly felt different. Your wife is the asshole for enabling her sister. Tom the Lad 79 says, "In the short term, I'd have each spouse draw a cash allowance after payday. If wife wants to use hers to treat her sister to lunch or pay her sister's bills, she can. After the money is used up, no drawing from the common pot. Long term, I'd want to be sure that the sister is receiving every kind of social help that she's entitled to and qualified for. Disability, EBT, Medicare/Marketplace health insurance, help with transport to appointments, sheltered employment/job retraining. I'm not sure how accurate OP is when he describes her challenges, so I don't know whether it would be best to help her work towards full independence or transition her to some kind of more sustainable supported living arrangement. You're the asshole. I get why you're upset about your wife spending money on her sister, but you are using the fact that your wife currently does not have her own income because she just gave birth to your child in order to control her, which is an asshole move on a whole different level. You're the asshole indeed. He is controlling, it is not his money, it is their money. And he's trying to get his wife to stop being a pushover by steamrolling her. He's just changing who is bossing her around and taking advantage of her conflict avoidance. He's not teaching her how to stand up for herself or create boundaries, he's just taking over the sister's role. So this sister that is somewhat disabled, but not entirely impossible to work, as long as she isn't under stress when she literally loses physical control and can hurt herself, is someone you have no problem with and find sweet and nice, yet a few paragraphs later is suddenly a financially irresponsible leech. Did anyone else get whiplash from this change in tone? Honestly, forget about the disabled sister, who your wife has as a dependent since before you were married. You had an argument with your wife, who recently gave birth, and you literally threatened to cut her off your joint finances if she doesn't do what you want or she starts contributing again. And that's why, for me, you're the asshole. She isn't contributing because she was pregnant with your child and is now post-labor caring for it. Please calculate how much this would cost for childcare 24/7 for the period since your child was born until the child was, let's say, 2 years old. Can you afford to pay this out of pocket? Because this is what your wife is contributing right now to your household. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.